Hello, welcome to the Let's Talk Kids Health episode, episode 24. So sorry about that. I'm Dr. Narissa Bauer, your host. I'm a behavioral pediatrician and blogger of Let's Talk Kids Health. The concept of this show is to share information about behavioral health, parenting, and family wellness. As you know, each week I plan to bring you topics and guests to help me advance this mission so that we can all talk together. Now remember, if you're watching this live, you'll have the opportunity to post comments and ask questions of my guest. And let us know that you're here by dropping us a comment right now, giving us a like, and using hashtag live. The replay will be immediately available upon the end of the broadcast. Now, if you're watching or listening to this and you're like, hey, so-and-so will really love this, please make sure to share, because sharing is caring. Now, if you don't want to miss future episodes or maybe check out some of my past ones, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Narissa Bauer MD, and follow my blog Facebook page, Let's Talk Kids Health. So now to this week's guest. Dr. Anu French is an integrative pediatrician and at New Wellness in the state of Missouri. She's also an artist and a musician. She is passionate about creating resources that will reveal a more colorful, joyful, united, and healthy world. Her journey over the last 25 years as a holistic healer and the last 17 years as a mother has been focused on building resilience of mind, body, and spirit for herself, her patients, and her family. Welcome to the show, Dr. French.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here today. And I love your background. It's so colorful.
Yeah, I know. I was telling people that I just love creating mindful art. And I am art specifically, and so that's my wall of art that I love looking at. It makes me happy.
Oh my goodness. I mean, art is just so joyful, and I can't wait to get into that a little bit more with you. So thanks again for joining the show. And so could you tell a little bit about your journey? I know that I sort of introduced that when I introduced you, but do you mind sharing a little bit more about yourself and how this began?
Sure. I practice pediatrics and integrative medicine in St. Louis, Missouri. And integrative medicine, it's a new field. It's only about 10 to 12 years old, and it really is where we bring evidence-based complementary alternative medicine into a kind of a regular allopathic practice. But the tools we're using are evidence-based, and we really look at the whole child, the whole person, as instead of breaking them down into systems. Also really address lifestyle, which includes the mind, body, spirit, the community connections, the connection to spirit, and looking at sleep and nutrition and exercise and screen time and all the things that we know are so basic, but really bring them into almost every visit.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the whole child, looking at the whole body as a whole rather than, like, as you said, systems. And I know that, that's a relatively new term, a new field. And I think you did a really nice job sort of defining that. How did you actually get interested in this? I mean, did you know going into pediatrics that this is what you wanted to do, or how did you start that journey?
I think in the first 15 years of practice, I would say I kind of talk about bread and butter pediatrics. And I used to call it the revolving door of pediatrics, sort of seeing children get sick, come back, and started questioning, is there more? But it was really my own personal journey with illness. About 15 years ago, I was really burned out, both professionally and personally. And I was not well, mind, body, and spirit. Lots of labels put on me by other doctors with diseases.
Yeah.
But I also had two little girls at the time who were also sick with asthma and allergies and eczema and reflux. And I was just like, there's got to be another way to prevent these diseases and address these diseases. And I stumbled on this fellowship through Dr. Andrew Wild's Center for Integrative Medicine. And I said, wow, this looks really like something that I want to do and I want to learn. And at that time, I don't think there was really any plan, to practice it. It was more about self-healing, healing the healer, and also bringing these tools into my own family first. And that's really what got me started. And then, would bring a few things into practice after completing the fellowship, and just everybody was interested. People were really thirsty for this. They wanted to know how could they empower their own journeys of healing? How could they bring these tools to their children and their communities? And so the practice just kind of grew from there.
Wow. I mean, so you were looking for something to heal yourself because as you said you were burned out. What I love about your story is that you really believe in these principles. You really believe in this framework or this, philosophy, and you're living proof that this has helped you and your family. So why not bring it to your patients?
Absolutely. And I think when a family walks into my office, there has to be a certain authenticity, right? If you're recommending certain things, I think if you don't believe in them and then you're not really personally following them, I think that shows. And we clearly not I don't have all of this under control all the time. I'm always honest with my families that this is a day-to-day challenge and staying balanced and steering clear of burnout again. But I think being able to join families in those journeys and helping them, understand that these tools can work and do work and can be applied, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, because I'm a general pediatrician by training, and I think most people watching or listening have a good idea of what a general peds practice looks like. Like, what sets your practice apart? Like the minute that we walk through your doors, can you walk us through that?
Well, I mean, we do have the mindful art that I create all over the office. So I think that does set us apart. We have I am affirmations everywhere you look, and we try to create an atmosphere that's soothing and
Mm-hmm.
welcoming. And we do have our staff every morning. We do a mindful grounding practice together, and we have like singing bowls that we use, and sometimes we do some yoga. So I think we're trying to practice these principles just to bring a sense of, a certain flow to
Mm-hmm.
our office. But I think when someone walks in and they're looking for integrative medicine, the approach is, yes, I am going to deal with what we're seeing today. For example, I always give the example of an ear infection, for example. Yes, of course, we have to treat it. Because sometimes people think that integrative medicine is where we don't use medicine at all, which is not true. We still use antibiotics when we need antibiotics, but we also use probiotics to protect the gut. And then we also question, okay, why did this kid get this ear infection? Is there something that we can do that can change this child's lifestyle choices or the family's lifestyle choices that might prevent the next one? So I think there's always that question in the mind as to why and
Mm-hmm.
how can we improve the child's overall quality of life and not just stop with treating that infection.
That is a wonderful sort of walkthrough because I think that really clarifies for folks that, it's not just the issue at hand, but you're always constantly thinking about how to just improve the whole body systems
Absolutely,
to
yes.
prevent
Right,
future
right.
illness.
And also to empower families and children and little
Hmm.
children too to believe that, we all have an innate ability to heal.
Yeah.
And yes, we do need medications and we do need, support, but our ability to heal is there. And and little children, they just know that, they're just so connected to themselves and they're so connected to their joy and they're so connected to their spirits that sometimes it's much easier actually in pediatrics. Yeah.
Well, so you brought up mindful art. So I'm going to just ask you, like, can you define what that is? And then we're going to talk about, like, how art became a tool in your life.
Sure. To me, mindful art is where when you sit down, um, you're fully present
Hmm.
and you're setting an intention for whatever art project you're doing. So it becomes a meditative process. It also is in a way a way of learning self-regulation because I feel like when you're doing mindful art practices, in the moment it's wonderful, but we're also trying to take that piece with us. I always talk about the chaotic abundance of my life, and as soon as we walk out the door into our jobs or into our lives, there's a lot of stress. And so I feel like mindful art, the mindfulness that we create in that moment, and that's why I love affirmations because affirmations are powerful mantras. They're like they're ways that you can take those words with you through the day, and it's powerful with little children to have them come into the office and walk through simple things like, when a family comes in, I always ask first, what's the thing about your child you want to tell me that is wonderful, that is positive, that is great? Because when kids come, they sometimes, it's always like, well, this is wrong or that is wrong. So we always start with, well, what's wonderful about this kid? Well, my kid's very brave. So I say, well, I am brave. And so I think just being able to carry that. So I think a mindful art project is taking the mindfulness, setting that intention when you start doing it. And then, the art for me, it was, I was going through a divorce about 12 years ago, when all of this was happening, kind of the burnout, and my children and I were in family therapy, and we would do these art projects, and a lot of data, a lot of information about adverse childhood events, ACEs,
Yes.
came up, and how they impact risk for disease and risk of inflammation in the body. And I didn't really know a lot about this as a pediatrician, but I learned a lot about it as a mother. And so we started to do art together. And I found the art tremendously healing for myself. And I just was painting and painting and painting all these affirmations, and found it so good to go back to, start having thoughts of self-doubt, or, self-criticism, or, or guilt or shame, or all of these feelings that come up with our life experiences, to be able to go back to these affirmations. So for me, I think the every day I still do some sort of art. It's not always painting, but something. Even yesterday I was doing coloring with my daughter. We were doing coloring book, and the affirmation was, I am a wildflower and I can withstand the storm. That was the particular affirmation, but it could be anything. So that's really how art became so much a part of my life, and continues to be a part of my life, on a daily basis, really.
Yeah, I this is the first time, I mean, we talked a little bit before we went live, and you talked about how art became that healing tool for you. You also, I just want to tell the viewers here that you also have a children's book. So I'm actually going to share this on the screen. Can you talk to us about that and how that came to be?
Yes, so this was one of the, projects I did with my children. So now my kids are almost 18 and 15. So when they were 6 and 3, almost 7 and 4, we would do the series of I am affirmations with them. And it's just a beautiful thing to see a child who truly believes that they are loved. That picture of that head on the heart. I mean, I remember my little kids just truly believed that they were hearts, and they were peace, and they were joy. And we would do these art projects with each other, and we would do mindful meditative walks. So we would walk around the house, and they would take turns to lead, and we'd all hold a mindful, affirmation in our head. I am something. That we'd sit together and we'd talk about what we held, and then we'd draw a picture. And that's kind of how we were doing this once or twice a week. And from that, this book came, and I thought, well, this would be a great book for children, because it helped my children tremendously, and it helped me too. And I still think it's powerful for children to believe these affirmations. And it's wonderful to hear from families, little photos that families have sent in to me after buying the book, and just positive feedback from children. And I had one child, I should have shared the photo, but he drew more hearts on that I am love. And he said, I'm adding more love. I'm adding more love. But children at this age, but this is really for kids under 6. It's ideal. It's great for beginning to read book. It's great for grandparents and educators, and for baby showers. A lot of people buy it for baby showers, reading it to their babies, from birth. So that's really how that came to be. And I think it continues to be a great tool of self-regulation for children, to be able to go to those affirmations, especially right now with the epidemic of mental health issues we're having after the pandemic and so on. I think lots of issues with isolation. For kids to be able to go to themselves and say, I am this, and I am that, and I am capable of this. I think it's very powerful.
I think so too, and I just want to point out this here. It says, "I am love, you are love, we are love."
Yes. Yes. So,
And
right. Because I think there's a certain, I do feel that some of these, um, some of the roots of bullying are
Mhm.
because you feel disconnected. You only can bully another child if you feel disconnected to them. If you feel connected to them, then you really can't hurt them. And so I feel like these affirmations of I am loved, you are loved, we are loved, staying connected, understanding that what's in my heart is in your heart, what's in your heart is my heart. From a young age, children at this age just believe that and know that for sure, but we see them lose it as they get older. So just reinforcing those affirmations, I think, can be so powerful in preventing one child hurting another child.
Yeah, yeah, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that idea of visual affirmations, not just repeating
Yes,
it as
yes,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you sort of have touched on this, but I think for those who are curious, educators, parents, art can be an immersive experience that you can share with your child. But what are other ways that art could be used? Is there research on this?
Yes, yeah. I think we talked a little bit about ACEs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
adverse childhood events, where there's a certain level of stress in childhood that's a little more than just tolerable or healthy stress. It's more about toxic stress. And what happens is inflammation goes up in the body, and then many, many years later, it sets you up for chronic disease. And beautiful studies showing that art, and it doesn't matter, how good you are. It doesn't matter what medium you're using,
Mm-hmm.
and it really doesn't matter how long you did, although many of these studies do 30 to 45 minutes of art. They looked at salivary cortisol levels, for example. So that's a great measure of a stress response. They took a little swab of cortisol from the cheek, and then they had people do artwork for 30 to 45 minutes. They took another swab, and they found that the cortisol levels dropped. So something as simple as that. So that's just a simple measure of inflammation. And they have other studies showing that measures of anxiety and depression
Mm-hmm.
actually go down in when art projects are done on a regular basis. So I feel that art is fun. It's an easy way to bring something for everyone to do in the family together. Because when we talk about mindfulness meditation, it's difficult. It's hard enough for me as a grown adult to sit and quiet my mind. It's hard, impossible for little kids to do that. So when we're talking about mindfulness practices of ways to drop into our body and be present, anything that you're doing with your hands, and whether you're doing using crayons or markers or even paints or even messy to do
Yes.
with, it's dropping into your body and present in the moment and doing it with your child gives a wonderful opportunity to be mindful together. And
Yeah.
that builds intergenerational resilience. We know that all of us face stress, but we know that resilience is something that we can build. Anybody can learn to be resilient, and resilience reverses the inflammation that we've been talking about. A great study showing how it decreases measures of inflammation in the blood and markers of inflammation. So I think that um, finding simple ways to do mindfulness as families on a daily basis is
Mm-hmm.
hard in our busy lives, but I think everybody's able to stop to do some art. And when we,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Well, so I guess I'm thinking, well, and I'm gonna, I love the idea of art, but staring at a blank canvas is a little bit overwhelming. I'm not a great drawer. My husband's got great drawing skills, even my kids, but like I can only do stick figures. So, like, what advice do you have for parents who are like, this sounds awesome, but like, how do I get out of my own way?
so interesting. So there are these scratch off cards. I always tell families to start with those. You can get them on Amazon. They're called rainbow scratch off cards. So they're little
Uh-huh.
black things, and then
Yes.
yeah. So I always tell families, and they're all different colors. So
Uh-huh.
this is such a great way to start because you just have to scratch off a shape, and you have this beautiful work of art already. And then again, the scratching off is very mindful because you've got to do it. So that's one of the things I say, and you get a whole box of them, and you can just do one a day or two a day, and start off with "I am love" and just spell it out, and
Mm.
it's so pretty. So that's one tip I give out in my office a lot. So you don't have to invest in a lot of different things, but I think starting with affirmations is great because again, everybody can write an
Mm-hmm.
affirmation, even if you feel like you're not a good artist, although I don't believe that that's true. I think everybody can draw something. Um, but I think that, I am love, for example, you just write it out, different colors. So that's why I like the affirmative art.
Yeah, and I can imagine, as you sort of, as adults sort of just let yourself become focused on that, it becomes meditative, right? I mean, you're seeing this beautiful thing reveal itself,
Right. And this
not
is
knowing what you're starting, right?
right, exactly. Like yesterday, my daughter and I sat down to do some art together. I was just coloring, and she actually ended up painting. And she did a couple of things she didn't like at all. She's like, I don't like this, I don't like that. And then she didn't want the canvas, and she found this piece of plastic that was on top of the canvas. That the canvas had come packed with this piece of plastic. And she's like, I'm going to paint on the plastic instead of the canvas. And then she created this beautiful sunset. And it was just funny how that evolved,
Uh-huh.
like because she was trying to paint on the canvas and she wasn't satisfied with any of those. So and it was just really a joyful experience for both of us, watching her go from through those stages. So and she's 14, almost 15. So I think that, doing it together with your kids can be just so precious, such precious moments.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, we live in this world where we're, on technology. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yes, yes.
without it, we wouldn't be able to do this great
Right,
show, right?
absolutely, right.
But I think, we're all looking for like ways to connect with our children without screens, and we forget sometimes art is a beautiful thing to do
Right.
together.
It definitely is. And
And
I think creating nature mandalas too is a great way for children. Like we go for a walk and let's pick up whatever we can find, the leaves and twigs, and then come home and just stick them on a piece of paper and maybe have some art. I've done that many times with my kids too.
uh,
Or we picked up pine cones and painted them, painted
yes.
pine cones, or we just picked up all these different kinds of leaves and arranged them, in what we call nature mandala. So it's another thing that people can do. Again, you don't really have to invest in a lot of supplies.
Hmm.
You definitely find ways to bring it into your life with what we have around us.
Yeah, and how beautiful is that, finding things from nature.
Nature, right? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Got so many tips here, so many tips. Well, so I'm going to actually share another page from your website right now because it has those beautiful affirmations and some of your own art. Tell us about
Absolutely.
this.
Yeah, these are just, these are the affirmations that really move me. And um we you they all have stories behind them. I was looking at them. I'm looking at the I Am Harmony one, which I actually created that for one of my daughter's music teachers, and that came from that. The I'm Hope, that was from visiting a local organic garden here in town that was really trying hard to connect with consumers and has done really successfully. So I Am Magical was after one of my daughter's magic shows when she was 4 or 5. So I
Oh,
think all of them have those. I Am Safe was definitely one that I did when there was a time when I wasn't feeling safe in my life, and this helped me feel safe. So I think I Am Sweet was one I did for my daughter. She actually wanted one for her. She wanted me to create one just for her. So they all have, stories behind them. And then, we, the the Redbubble is who I collaborated with to create prints of
uh-huh.
these, and Redbubble does all kinds of stationery and stuff. And then Vita was who I connected with to create, apparel and accessories, just because I feel like these messages, it's fun to wear them and to have them on bags and scarves and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so that brings me to, so people viewing this now, they can see on your website that you also have clothes, prints, pillows, stationery. So this is through Vita, is that
Yeah,
right?
Vita, it's so funny. Like 5, 6 years ago, I got this email from this company saying they wanted to use my art, and I thought it was spam. I actually deleted it a few times, and then when it kept coming back, I kind of went and looked at the company, and they're an amazing global advocacy because they link artisans and artists globally. And
Uh-huh.
so what I do as the artist is I have the creative autonomy, and I create all these beautiful things, and there's clothes and apparel and home goods and all kinds of things, and masks, of course, were the big one this year. And then what happens is if someone purchases an item, the proceeds go back to the artisan who actually created that piece for education and women's rights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so all the proceeds support social justice and global literacy globally. So it's a wonderful program, and I was really happy to be asked, and I'm so happy to be part of them. And in 2020, Vita raised so much money for the COVID response. They distributed masks and meals to healthcare workers and frontline workers. And right now, they're still supporting the COVID humanitarian crisis in India. So they're just a wonderful company. I'm very happy, very proud to be a Vita artist.
Wow. I mean, so I have a couple comments from viewers here. So I'm just going to show. So Dr. Alma says having agency to heal is powerful. And then she also goes on to say that your work is so beautiful, Dr. French, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for those of you who are interested in supporting the cause, the mission, and getting some beautiful art, you can always go to her website, anewfrench.com.
That's
and,
right. Yeah.
And yep, so art, book, and more information on her practice is there as well. Yeah, so I just, this is just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and sharing, all of these wonderful tips and resources for not only sort of getting in touch with our inner child and connecting with our own kids, free from screens. It's such a beautiful inspiration.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so grateful to art. I feel like art has been a huge healing tool for my healing, and I think compared to where I was 10, 15 years ago, I'm in much better health. My children are in much better health, and all the integrative tools that I learned in my fellowship and that I bring into my practice, I definitely bring into my home. But it's wonderful to be truly integrated, right?
Yes.
Like you're really actually practicing what you're preaching and constantly reaching for these tools on a daily basis to find balance, and hopefully empowering my children and my patients to also know that these tools are accessible and to anybody, and resilience, anybody can learn and build resilience, and anybody can overcome inflammation and chronic disease. And art is definitely one of the most powerful tools.
Yeah, and it's beautiful too, and I love that as we were scrolling through all the different pieces on your website, you could tell like it brought this memory of the story behind it to your face. So
it's so wonderful to see those pieces, and I paint on commission, and it's wonderful to hear people say, "Hey, I want this particular piece because my child is working here, or my child has this particular talent and I want to celebrate that." And I do pieces, those specific custom pieces, but the prints also are available to everybody on Redbubble, and they make beautiful different kinds of things. They have photo prints and canvas prints and frame prints and little photo cubes and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's lots of options there for that. So
yes, and I will point out you're wearing one of your art pieces too, right?
Yeah, I am Vita's, the I am love scarf, and it's just they really have such good quality, and their products, like this was made in India, so the money that I paid for it went back to that person for their education. So to me, that's really powerful, direct kind of line of advocacy, really. Yeah.
And it's almost like full circle. Like you've healed yourself, you're on this path, and then yet you're spreading these gifts.
Yeah, oh, and I walk into my office every morning. I'm very grateful to see my art on the walls, and I think kids ask about it all the time. Did you paint that? Did you paint that? 'Cause I think my art's it is my inner child. I feel like my art is it's very childlike, let's just say, because it is me bringing out my inner child and being able to color outside the lines and being messy and
Yes.
those sort of metaphors, right? Yeah, so it's really powerful, and just to feel like, wow, I've come full circle. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, congratulations to you, Anu.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share all of this. It's just great to be able to talk to you and to share with people how powerful some of the basic. I always talk about these things are very basic, and we don't have to learn fancy forms of meditation, or what the people I think get intimidated by intense yoga and intense meditation, things like that, when you think of mindfulness. But I think mindfulness practices can be fun, and they can be simple, and they can be something that can be done every day.
Yes, and intentional slowing down with your child, with your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for inspiring us to go out, start our, do some art.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
definitely the scratch off cards are a good start.
yes, yes, I'm gonna get some.
They're so fun. They're so fun. You never know. Every time you do one, it's different, you know?
Well, so Dr. French, if people want to find you, connect with you, I know I mentioned your website. Is there any other platforms or
Yeah,
places you want to direct
I
them?
have, yeah, I mean, a new wellness
Mm-hmm.
is my public Facebook page and my Instagram. So I share a lot of my website is full of integrated resources. There's an integrative medicine cabinet on there, so
Hmm.
full of free resources for families, things that I recommend to my kids and my patients. I also share a lot of information on my Facebook and Instagram pages. So, and then that, if people want to find a doctor, an integrative doctor in their area, they can go to the I think I shared the link with you, and I can share it again if you want to share it with viewers at a later point on your website. But it's through the Dr. Andrew Weil Center of Integrative Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
You're searching for a provider in your area who has completed a fellowship in integrative medicine. They have a whole list of people. So if people are watching from other parts, of the country or outside of the St. Louis area, there are plenty of people who have done this fellowship and who are out there practicing integrative medicine. So,
Wonderful. Yeah, so I will, for those of you watching, listening, I will put those show resources on the YouTube channel description there. So,
perfect.
yeah, no, thank you so much. And again, I just want to introduce my guest for next week. So those who are interested in finding out, my guest next week will be Dr. Tracy Agnesi, who will be talking to us about the fourth trimester. She is a pediatrician in New York. So again, if you have any suggestions, future topics or guests, please feel free to reach out to me at letstalkkidshealth@gmail.com. Shoot me a message on any of my social media platforms or just drop a comment below. And remember, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Narissa Bauer MD, to be alerted each week when I go live. Dr. French, it has been a pleasure. I am so glad to have had this time with you. Thanks for sharing part of your evening with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being invited on your beautiful show, and thank you for all the good work you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's it for now. We'll see you next week.